Hello and welcome back. A bit of a short break this time, but we're ready. We're getting uh, really excited to get into this next matchup. I mean, UNL took this first map in a pretty convincing fashion, but you can sort of excuse that away if you will. Oh, we're still getting into things. We're warming up. We had a sub that didn't make it. That wasn't a sub, but all extra circumstances aside,
Is that copium I smell?
I with the power of Tim's compels you. The power of Tim's compels you.
Tim Morton's to the rescue of every Canadian.
But now that we're getting into this draft, UNL have swapped sides. They're going to be the first pick now, first ban, and they've decided, we don't want to play with Sinclair anymore. Let's get it out.
Alright, so that's one other method of dealing with Styler's comfort pick, and that'll force University of Toronto to ban the Mirage. So that's kind of an adaptation we've been seeing recently. When you have an odd number of very good heroes in the meta, first team can kind of throw away their pick, or their first ban, use it on something that they particularly want to get rid of, and the other team is almost forced to get away the top threat, just to make sure that the other doesn't get it. So, draft strategy on point here for UNL, and they'll pick out the Apollo, and I guess show us why University of Toronto wanted to ban that away last game.
Alright, yeah, we don't really have too much info on Apollo, at least from the roster sheets we're able to gather up before the stream. Potentially a pocket pick, coming out of those scrims, right? These teams like to scrim each other a lot. Apollo does have a lot of uses, really stomping in those early games, making sure to build himself a lead. And, with a couple thousand souls ahead of his opponents, he's able to scale really well into that mid-game. And we see a Dynamo get picked up for University of Toronto.
That is a bit surprising in the first couple of picks, but I suppose if Sinclair is already out, then you want to make sure UNL don't get it for Arctic again. Not a huge impact in the last game, but enough that University of Toronto at least want to see what they can do with it. Probably going to be Johnny on that one, and he'll get to show us exactly what they could do with that. And the Venator also coming in, not a huge surprise. I guess the biggest question here is, why no silver for either of these teams? Yeah, I honestly would have loved to see like a silver Venator pick here for University of Toronto.
Yeah, surprising disappearance there. Pretty likely that UNL are going to pick that up. It's a really strong pairing to have two super strong early game characters, and it's actually going to be the Lady Geist instead. It makes sense. You're picking up one of those longer term carries for your prosperity's sake.
Yeah, if they don't get silver here, I will be disappointed in them, but you got the back-to-back picks, could still come in. University of Toronto used it to pretty good effect last time, right? That was one of the bright spots for them, was Fractal on that silver, and so yeah, UNL will steal that one away, make sure that they can get that early game tempo instead. So kind of the question for them is, will they be able to hang in the late game? Because Apollo definitely does fall off later, and Venator is generally rated a bit higher than Geist, so depending on, how the back half of these drafts work out, we could see University of Toronto this time being the ones who scale a bit harder into the late game. Abrams, though, going to be a repeat here for Dreamline 333, most likely. Honestly, kind of an off game from him before, got picked out a couple of crucial times. Would love to see him play a little bit more with the team this time and be that tanky frontliner that Abrams is known to be.
Yeah, we did see a bit of spark of potential in that early game, getting that early burger box kill, but like you said, it's just pick after pick after pick. And it's really hard to really analyze players' individual performances when there is such a big team-wide solo lead, right? So going into the second half of the draft, I'm really expecting to see a lot of emphasis on, carries from UNL, and, even picking up a support, right? That's what U of T are banning out. They're going to remove the Kelvin entirely from play.
I do like that. Silver Kelvin is a pretty nasty combination, so you just make sure that UNL can't pick up that one headed here into the second half, and they'll stick with the Mo and Krill ban from game one, just ensuring that some of their spirit heroes can get in there and do their damage effectively. So, I mean, yeah, UNL still missing both a support and a bit more damage to back up this Lady Geist. Might expect a Rim to come in here. If you're UNL, that's kind of one of the main support picks left available to them. Ivy as well, still on the board. Not sure how much Arctic has playtime on that one, but could come in here. Meanwhile, Mina for University of Toronto, backing up that damage. I do think that's what they're lacking the most at this point, is just ability to burst down heroes like this Geist and Apollo.
Yep, solid pickup there, and like you said, it really fleshes out a lot of their damage profile. Having that burst damage from the Mina is going to allow themselves to have a lot more leniency here. Interested in seeing who it ends up going out onto. Stylar definitely fits a lot of the description here, but could also see its way onto somebody like Fractal. University of Nebraska-Lincoln, they next pick up that Wraith, did a ton of work for them last game, and it definitely feels like it fits a lot better. It's going to have a lot more room to breathe without a Venator, contesting them on that side lanes this time.
Yeah, it's just probably going to be sometimes sticking with that Wraith and Strobo on the Geist instead of the Venator, so comfortable stuff here for Nebraska-Lincoln. Speaking of the University of Toronto side, yeah, Mina is going to be important here. I would also like to see them maybe pick up a Billy at some point to get some lockdown onto the slippery heroes like Wraith, like Apollo. That could be their other frontliner here for Fractal, who's not going to be on the silver this time. And UNL, after me just talking in Game 1 how we haven't seen a whole lot of the raw pick characters, are going to pick up the Paradox to supplement the rest of their comp.
A really dangerous approach here from UNL. It's really all-inning on the potential that you're able to lock down one individual in particular. So University of Toronto, they're definitely shaking in their boots, because that is one of the strategies that they like to employ the most. They like to take Misclicked, put him on a side lane somewhere, and then have him show up as this big guy who's 10 to 15k souls ahead and try and run these fights down. Now that you have the swap available, you have the telekinesis, and with the Bola plus Silence Wave combo, you're really giving them a run for their money at how well they're going to be able to peel for him.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Of course, Johnny is usually there with the rescue beam to get him out of trouble. So we'll see how that happens on the Dynamo. Kind of a lack of teamfight ultimates from both these teams. You've got the Atani Losan, and I guess to an extent the Lycan Curse and swap from UNL, and the Dynamo, of course, on the other side, going to be the main focus. And then University of Toronto, honestly, these last two picks, I don't quite vibe with it. The Yamato last time, Stylar hopefully not going to be repeating. I gotta say that is not a great performance. Would prefer to see him on the Mina in this game just to have a bit more of an impact on the match. And then the Bebop to finish off, that's a bit tough, but we do know that Big Fat B is if anyone's going to be piloting Bebop well in this lobby, it's probably going to be them.
Yep, and the Doorman coming out from UNL. An interesting pickup for sure. There were some recent changes that impact a lot of the, I would call it, the most boring playstyle that you currently see from him, where you place a door down, you're going to Vortex web them into a cart and send them at your walker. I mean, it's cool the first 3 times you see it, but when it happens to you repeatedly, just for existing past the midpoint of the map, then it just kind of gets annoying.
Yeah, honestly, I think Counterspell is more than enough to make that not a huge issue, but it does very much depend on you having good reflexes, so we'll see what the plan is. I mean, I guess it's going to be Arctic on that hero, who's kind of in the more support-ish role. Could see a bit harder into the support utility sort of Doorman. Slowing Hex, sure, but then Guardian Ward into Divine Berry eventually on that hero could be the play here. Or, who knows, maybe we could see full Bell Doorman. We'll just have to see. But overall, fairly decent drafts from both these sides. I don't think anything particularly stands out as being super heavily favored. Just a couple of questions for me about the specifics of these last couple heroes from University of Toronto.
Yeah, and, as we get into this game and, as the picks are being populated, we already see that Stromo is actually going to be on the Lady Geist. It's not going to be the Wraith. Wraith is going to be running it back with some time. It makes a lot of sense considering how that round went, but it's still a bit untraditional for your primary M1 carry to, be placed on the character.
Big parry there on the Venator. And speaking of surprising hero swaps, Dreamline is going to be over to the Yamato instead of the Abrams, and we'll see I blanked on it. Fractal instead on the Abrams. So there's the swap arounds for the frontliners of University of Toronto as we get a look at how this is going to all shake out. It's Stylar on the Venator this time, and Misclicked will be taking up that Mina. So kind of a swap of the carry and off carry as well for U of T. Just working with the hero pool, seeing what they can do to get Stylar in a position to carry this game.
Yeah, really peculiar all around. I'm interested to see what the effect is going to be on the overall match, because a lot of those preconceived notions that we had were based on that these people, these players, they like to play certain roles. Now you're sort of bending the definition of them a little bit and dragging characters around to where they're not used to.
I see the enemy.
Only a little bit, though. I think this is still well within the wheelhouse of these players. I mean, you see Big Fat B just landing that hook. Like, clearly they're comfortable here on this bebop, as they're kind of still looking at the lanes here. You see the Venator stuck back in mid lane, similar to last time, but with a bebop this time. And on the other side, crucially, it's University of Toronto running that, and the Paradox Geist as the Spirit Poke for University of Nebraska-Lincoln going to be able to fend that one off. Over here on the right side, you've got a tank and a backliner for both sides. Abrams in silver and Mina and Doorman facing off respectively. Then the left side, excuse me, a little bit more unusual, I would say, with one hero who's not particularly strong for both sides early on.
Yep. Now, in terms of our sort of predictions for the longer-term state of this game, both of these teams, they have pretty strong late-game insurance. You know, your Venator against a Wraith, you have a Lady Geist against a Mina, and it's going to be a first blood kill for Styler, I suppose, after getting a gut shot into a wall.
Yeah, the hook into the gut shot. That's a pretty potent combo. I guess that's why you have those two stuck together in the mid lane.
Yep.
That's enough to get a almost 200 bag off of the Geist as well. So early soul swings away from Stromo and over into the pockets of Styler. And yeah, it's going to be about those two late game contestations of like the Venator versus the Wraith, but then also the team fight utility of the Paradox versus the Bebop or the Dynamo, depending on what you want to be looking at utility wise. And then Cloud versus Dreamline is another one of like these two characters need to stay ahead and need to be finding time in the early game to get these picks. So a lot of parallelisms between these two drafts that we can look at and keep an eye on who's staying ahead at what stage of the game.
Yep, solid aggression there from Dreamline. Latching onto Cloud, who's below half HP, is going to be very scary. He is able to pull away. Now re-engaging at just 250 health is an interesting maneuver for sure. Going to back off and get those tier 1 camps. Looking at the rest of the spread, though, things have been relatively even so far. We're approaching the 5-minute mark with bridge buffs coming up. We don't really have a clear, definitive winner on who's going to be contesting those first.
Yeah, the only thing we can really look at is who's going to be having those ultimates first. Styler definitely well in the lead for that one. Has the Iridomini online. And Arctic going fairly low on the right side as well, not able to get away, and that means that Misclick will be the next one up with an ultimate, the Nox Nostra coming online, and that means a little bit more tempo as we do, as you say, get to those bridge buff timings. This is the way, we gotta shove it out, get to your bridge buffs on time, please learn from that if you're cute with me. The Bebop hook goes a little bit wide.
Yep, Mina's definitely not somebody you want to see get a lot of souls in that early game. They're really efficient at snowballing it as you go into that mid. The Apollo jumping over the bridge buff, or where it would spawn, the flawless advance doing a ton of damage here to the Venator as he's forced to drop down early. It's going to be Stromo actually claiming the casting buff. And it's a full-on retreat for both of these sides. It seems like Dreamline is actually not catching the memo and engaging a little bit deeper than most. Stromo down to just 250 HP, but has that regeneration. Able to keep themselves alive a little bit longer, and the Quantum Entanglement as well, just to clear some of that damage, is pretty solid. Cloud goes in really deep, and it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade right at the end. Johnny at critical health is almost able to make his way out, but ends up getting caught up by that Wraith at the end.
Stromo was actually in a lot of trouble there. We got a quick look at what they're building. They are rushing the Mystic Regeneration, and so they only had one item in that fight, despite having the casting buff, and also no ult. So, I mean, very greedy early on from Stromo, and just able to get away with it there by the skin of their teeth. So, positive trades for UNL coming back into this, as they grab one of the buffs, and you see Misclick there with the other, the Vitality buff, and I mean, you don't even need a damage buff to shred down the HP of Neptic there, so 4.8k spike nearly online for this Mina, and that's when you might expect them to get a little bit more aggressive with this damage.
Yeah, potential for tower dive as well. We see Arctic already setting up some defensive doors, but the power parry does come out. The Nox Nostra onto Arctic, and there's no chance for you to deploy that second door. Silver gets taken out in the church as well, and you're just setting yourselves up with a nice little lead here on this right side.
Very nice indeed, and Mina was able to heal up a lot of that HP from the rate. And Abrams going to be doing slightly similar, but not quite as well with that Infernal Resilience. And so now that's tempo in that lane for University of Toronto well in hand. Looking over here at this left side, we do see a gank coming in from that Bebop, who doesn't manage to find all that much with the hook. And instead, it's the Vendor getting pressured over here in mid by the Spirit pressure from Geist and Paradox. Not too much resulting from it from either side, but you do love to see those rotations coming in.
Yep, wave not crashing yet, so the Bebop's not going to lose out on anything for that gank. And, you know, things are back to being pretty even. There's not too much to play for at this stage of the game, but the teams definitely respecting each other a lot more compared to the last time. Not any super aggressive, you know, farm routes or box plays. We see Woody Seth getting caught out there on mid. It's definitely a rough place to be, especially as your Guardian is now below half.
And Styler on 6.6k with the Iridomini in hand. Interestingly, putting points in the gut shot first. Going for, I guess, a bit more of the early melee damage rather than the full ultimate rush. Now a Dynamo Black Hole comes in to lock down Cloud on this Apollo. Goes down to 1 HP, and that'll be a finish off there. Looking to get back some of the soul lead and make sure Dreamline has this good early game that Yamato so desperately needs. Johnny, 1 HP, gets away just slightly, just barely. As Fractal goes down on the other side.
Oh, really had me sitting there on the edge of the seat, especially seeing Dreamline walking behind that Dynamo in case of stray bullets was, you know, coming their way. Is going to be able to retreat back over to the base. And, you know, University of Toronto, they've managed to build themselves up a cheeky 4K lead off of this early game. And, you know, I think it's going to be a pivot here for the Sinners, at least for the next little bit.
We're seeing the early gun rush here from Big Fat B. We're going to just use that laser and beam down people that way, rather than bomb bop that we see a lot of people go for. But Arctic gets caught out here by the Nox Nostra once again. And the Silver on low HP, trying to find the finish off onto Mina, but it's an Abrams in her way. Kind of a bear man versus werewolf, I suppose. It seems like they'll back off and just go for this Guardian once that Lycan Curse runs out. Again, University of Toronto doing well here in the early game. About 5k lead here at 9 minutes. They're going to need to continue to pressure that.
Of all the people that you would want to be low economy on University of Nebraska, this is definitely going to be one of them. Doorman can make do with what he's got, especially, you know, given his utility, being able to use the environment to his advantage to displace himself and just to make chasing him a really difficult endeavor. We see a dive here coming out from the Apollo. Is going to be able to secure that kill onto Dreamlion, and now with the teleport backwards from some time, they're able to disengage from that just as fast as it came in. I think I spoke a little bit too soon there as the pull comes back in, and, you know, sometimes it ends up getting picked off.
Yeah, nice one there. Just easy as it goes. After the Project Mind comes out, you've got a nice target there. But Apollo comes back in and manages to find Johnny. And if you go low here as Big Fat B, especially with the Wraith coming back in, you're going to be subject to that Atani Losan. So it's more dangerous than it looks here. I will recognize that and just get out. So trades on the other side as Shromo is caught in the mid lane. And that mid Guardian has actually gone down for University of Toronto while Big Fat B was on that game. So they have managed to make use of this so far. Just need to continue getting these kills and pressuring the Guardians, but instead misclicked out of that one as the Lycan Curse is too much for Mina.
Yeah, finding yourself face-to-face with a transformed Silver is not something you want to be, especially without your Sanguine Retreat available for another 30 seconds. It's definitely a difficult spot. We see Johnny picking up that urn, already making their way across the other side of the map. Mina's going to be up relatively soon, and with the Nox Nostra available to them, this is definitely a really big moment for both of these teams. I think that, you know, ultimate to ultimate, you're still a decent amount away from Johnny having the singularity, but I still think it would be a balanced fight overall.
You see here the door already set up and a swap comes in. Fractal just completely eliminated starting this urn fight, but Toronto do have control of the urn at least for now, so they should be able to get away with this one if they please. They're just taking a Guardian on the left side as well. No, Nebraska-Lincoln actually managed to steal the urn away and turn that one in. They'll get a large chunk of the souls, but some of them denied away, of course. Now the fight breaks out in earnest. Arctic down. Looking for more here as Mina is caught, and it's going to be looking in favor of Nebraska-Lincoln.
Yeah, cashing out the straggle kills, especially after you deposit the urn, that is exactly what you want to see. And, you know, leading that fight over to the walker with your troopers in tow, you're going to be able to take that. That's the first walker down, urn down, and, you know, winning the team fight as decisively as you did. Nice parry there onto Fractal, doing so much damage, but Magma on the ground is going to have to deter what he said from chasing out that kill.
Yeah, so you end up there with... Oh, okay, nice hyperline. Ends up being kind of even between the two. Nebraska-Lincoln take the urn and get a little bit of walker pressure, but Toronto managed to get a Guardian and a walker over on that left side and keep Wraith under check for a little bit longer, so... You can debate. I've seen some people talk about which one is more valuable, first urn or a walker, but any way you put it, it comes out fairly close. So things just back to even for these two teams until we get the next time where that will happen in a couple minutes. It's going to be about securing your own jungle here, especially as the Sinners respawn here in about a minute.
Yep, now, you know, looking at the current state of the map, oh, a little bit of lag there, at least from my end. We see Big Fat B, you know, sitting pretty with 11k souls. This Bebop is definitely something to be, not something to be messed with. You're gonna have to really respect the hook range, especially as you go into the Mystic expansion and get into that later game. Overall, though, I think it's a pretty stark contrast compared to the game state that we found ourselves in last match.
And that's just the factor of, I think, most of U of T being on more comfortable heroes, right? Styler is on something that they can put out a lot of damage on. Dreamline has been having a better game on this Yamato. And then Big Fat B as well, playing on Bebop, one of their more comfortable roles, I think. So this is the match that we were hoping to get from Game 1 on. So University of Toronto now having to come back from it in what we otherwise thought would be a relatively even match. They're doing well so far, but it is still just a 5k lead for them. This next urn is going to be really big to see if they can set the pace of the rest of this game.
Yeah, and even though there is that 5k lead, we also see a lot of tier 3 camps still up for UNL. They still have an opportunity to make that change. You see a pull here coming through Nostra onto 2, but not enough damage at this stage of the game as the Guardian Ward is able to detect Arctic's health bar. Like Curse comes out, but the Abrams is trying to escape. The Italian Lausanne is able to finish them off as 5 kill streak. The Singularity comes out to pull the silver into place. He's not going to be able to get that any further until he just interrupts it mid-cast. Arctic falls, Johnny falls, and now we see Styler showing up a little bit later to this fight.
Yeah, this could be dangerous if you are the carry for University of Toronto. 19k, but there's a whole lot of the enemy team ready there to meet you, and so you see kind of the weakness of having that M1 carry just given the solo lane and not showing up to team fights is the rest of your team not quite as strong once you get engaged on. Small push on the right side did result in a little bit more chip damage for UNL on the right side walker, but not going to fall just yet as things reset, and it's going to be 10 seconds until these buffs come up, and we see who's going to be able to take the urn.
Yeah, these teams seeming to go one-for-one trade onto the bridge buff. The Silver didn't quite get the memo as they get caught out by the gut shot. But ultimately, it is going to be University of Toronto, you know, claiming that side of the map, claiming the urn pickup most importantly. And with the soul differential still so close, it's still neutral. You have a really big opportunity here to make another splash. You know, hopefully not let UNL run away with the fight, the urn, and a walker this time.
You see Dorman, though, now that we can see the door range on the map, he's got one set up at mid walker, and it reaches all the way to the urn drop-off location. So if he can get a good cart in, could send some people very far away from this fight and give Nebraska-Lincoln the edge when it comes to the urn drop-off. So they've just got to get enough people over there. You see University of Toronto already with a man advantage, and instead, UNL are pressuring this right side walker, trying to do the same trade.
Yep, Swap does so much damage, and I think with the Paradox alone in that 1v1, you were going to be able to secure it, and then on top of that, having Shremo just there to support is going to guarantee that Walker falls. It's a good trade there, especially considering the University of Toronto, they still haven't made their way over to dunk this yet.
No, and Apollo's playing goalkeeper here, just keeping Johnny away from delivering this one. He goes in, but it's going to be heavily punished for it with a lot of damage, and now silenced up as well to make sure they can't get away. Not able to pop the Itani Losan. Rest of the damage coming in here. Misclick doing a lot in this fight so far to keep University of Toronto in it. They have lost that Walker, but they're keeping in the fight. They're keeping the souls in play for them. And it looks like UNL are going to have to escape here.
Yeah, we see the Venator. They're getting kidnapped next to UNL's Walker. There might not be long left. There might not be long left for him in this world, although he does manage to get a kill there onto Arctic on his way out.
It's about the best you can hope to do, honestly, if you're at the enemy Walker that early. So just clean up here for University of Toronto. They managed to find Woody Seth on the back half. And despite the urn going their way and generally coming out ahead on kills... Oh, never mind. The urn still hasn't been deposited. It's about to go their way. But that'll be all the soul lead that they get from all of this, is UNL have managed to come out ahead on souls for just this exact second.
Yep, Apollo not quite able to chase down the Dynamo, but is in position to help contest this urn pickup, although it is a very dangerous spot to be in as the bomb connects. Well, okay, it only does 155 damage for now.
Well, it's gun bebop, right? You're not playing so much for the bomb stacks and the big burst of damage. But man, Cloud has just been so annoying. It's like the third time that he's been able to drop this urn from University of Toronto. He's buying a lot of time for his team to be able to come back into this and make a full contest. So after winning the fight before, they even get the chance to deny the urn if they choose.
Yeah, the lack of point-and-click CC is really proving to be dangerous for them here, and Fractal ends up getting caught out next to their tier 3. This urn is no longer a foregone conclusion, right? All the members of UNL are back up, and with the fight taking place on neutral ground for both of these teams, I think University of Toronto really have their work cut out for them.
Especially with Johnny having to go all the way back to base, that singularity out of the fight, but at 11k, Dynamo is so squishy, and now Styler's been locked away, and that's your main threat for University of Toronto, so that'll be an urn Duncan, actually for UNL. After all of that, they might get Styler on the back end of this, and that is concerning for University of Toronto if it manages to come through.
Yeah, managing to make that great escape, hiding behind the Walker now. UNL weren't quite ready to give it up just yet, but I think seeing the rest of the teammates show up via the zip lines is dissuading them a little bit from chancing that kill further. I mean, let's take a moment to zoom out, look at the overall state of this game. UNL went into this down about 5k souls after a really extended sequence. I think it was a 2 to 3 minute fight. You were able to not only win in terms of kills, you're now also able to dunk that urn in, and now you're sitting 7k ahead yourselves.
Yeah, very nice trades on the macro side for UNL, and now, again, it's tougher for University of Toronto to find their way back in these fights. Dreamline on the Yamato at 15k is only at the same level as Arctic on the other side. The Doorman, who doesn't really need a whole lot of souls to do his thing. You see him picking up the Vortex Web here. A lot of key items coming online right now as well. You see I believe the Torment Pulse was just picked up for the Apollo. Mystic Expansion instead could be Neptic now with the Silence Wave to continue on the silences for Silver, that lockdown potential. University of Toronto also getting some good items. You can see a couple of Headhunters. Styler picking up that Hollow Points to shred the resistances, and it's going to be about who can get their key players in the right positions for these fights, because Sometime and Styler are about even, and generally there's not a whole lot of standouts for these two sides.
Yeah, especially since we're starting to hit that point of the game where you have your core items online, you're starting to look into using those flex slots to see, can I counter itemize? Can I shut anyone down really hard? And if I'm looking at UNL's squad, they are really susceptible to slowing hacks. Not only the Apollo, but also the Wraith and the Silver. Yeah. You're denying them a lot of power. And on the side of University of Toronto, I would say pretty much the same thing. Having a lot of easy, cheap CC that you're able to deploy against them is going to deny a lot of their key abilities.
That's kind of what I wanted to see the Billy here for University of Toronto instead of the Yamatos. Just the Chain Gang applying the pseudo slowing hex onto them, but they're gonna have to make do without, and hopefully pick up some more of those silence waves to be able to deny UNL the escapes that they need. Urn now being taken by Nebraska-Lincoln as they look to set things up. Doorman just shoving around those doors, trying to find something, and Paradox may have been caught out here. Woody Seth now having to get away from Styler at University of Toronto on these rooftops. Urn has been dropped.
Yep, sliding across that rooftop is going to be caught out at the very last moment. And now we have the Yamato picking up this urn, walking over to the deposit points. And UNL don't seem to be close enough. Actually, it's going to be the Vortex Web card to knock them away. And then sent directly into that hotel. Who is going to pick it up next, though? It's still starting to waddle away on the ground. Mobilization. And it is a parry through to the next door. We zooming on to the other side of this fight, though, we see the Mina fighting this wolf, just rage baiting her a little bit with the Sanguine retreat floating up high in that air. The cooldown refund from transforming back into human form almost caught him off guard. Nectic ultimately ends up dying.
Somewhere in there, Fractal ended up on mid-walker. I'm not sure if it was a doorman door, but if it was, then exactly where he wanted to be. Nice finish off there from Misclick, getting a lot of value here at low HP, but almost takes down that middle walker with the wave being there, does Fractal. And as things shake out here, there's going to be a lot of kills coming in for University of Toronto. Might even start to look mid-boss if you get 1 or 2 more.
Yep, nice 1k bag trading hands there, and Yamato chased a little bit too deep. Now down your Yama, down your Mina, and mid-boss might start to be off the table again now. University of Toronto, they still do have some very big ultimates that they haven't expended yet. Probably will wait for a next, straightforward team fight before they make that call.
Yeah, I mean, even with the singularity available for Johnny, it's fairly low economy even for a Dynamo, so not going to have a lot of the luxury purchases like duration or expansion just yet. Eventually going to be wanting to go for the Warpstone Refresher, that type of stuff. But you see just the Headhunter, Spirit Resilience, things like that available for now. So your Dynamos maybe not as much of an impact as you would want. You see Refresher in the queue actually already. That's going to be fairly quick soul-wise, even if it's about the same time in game that you'd expect it for most ultimate-focused Dynamos. So you see now University of Toronto just putting focus on clearing all of their camps. It's not a whole lot to do on the map as they are behind by a little over 10,000. And it's going to be 90 seconds before they can make use of that with a potential comeback earn. So things feel fairly calm right now, but now that we are past 20 minutes, pretty much any 2 picks can result in mid-boss for either team.
Yep, one of those big things I want to highlight, right, is we talked about it before. The Doorman is super potent on this low economy. Being able to pull your enemies with you under that walker, we've seen it happen multiple times so far. And I think it just happened again with the Mina, just caught out there, sent into the hotel, and just must have just been a visual bug there, as the Sanguine retreat ultimately does come out, but telekinesis pulls them back in again. That's a sad fate for Misclicked.
Not a whole lot you can do about that once you've gotten in. Gonna need the counter spell, dispel magic, something to not get carded into walker like that, or just have extra people keeping an eye out for Arctic, shutting him down with those silence waves, things like that. Spellslinger now online for the Geist as well. A lot of extra damage online for Shromo coming into these fights, and University of Toronto just having to shove out their waves and reset as Misclicked is off the field for a little bit longer. It was a good pick there from Arctic. Misclicked has been farming pretty well in this Mina, so that damage falling behind just that tad little bit extra. Try to join those words.
Yeah, now with the bridge buffs coming up, that is going to be an aggressive play here, knocking that Yamato away. And University of Toronto, they're going to have to settle for just getting the Vitality buff on the other side of the map. We see UNL forming an early claim for this comeback urn. It's going to be a little... it's not a comeback urn, actually. That must have been right on the edge of 10%.
It was around 13,000, needed to be 15, so Toronto not quite behind enough for that one. They're going to have to make a risky contest here onto the neutral drop-off location. With Doorman having the door already set up to the walker, I mean, surely you just need one person there eventually to finish it off, and that'll be a tool for UNL denied. But Yamato trying to come in, deny the soul urn, but it doesn't quite happen, and so UNL happy to take that one in. They lose Shromo for it, but unless Toronto can follow this up with more picks, they're not going to be able to get much off of it.
Yeah, we do see a trade happening near that left side walker. Yamato and a Wraith involved. And the Apollo chasing down Styler, trying to make his escape. The Warpstone around the corner is able to give himself enough distance And now he is, trying to escape that extra stamina, doing so much work down the Italian Sun outs is going to save them. Nostra coming out onto that silver. He's not going to be able to do as much damage as perhaps he was hoping for.
No, and that's really rough because now it's misclicked and Styler picked back to back. Those are the two you need to be carrying you, and Sometime has just been farming on this rate the whole time. You saw the attempted dive from Dreamline didn't work out quite as well as UNL's attempts, so it seems like UNL pulling ahead further and further as we get into this late game. 20k now after that earn, and a couple of picks. Apollo there with a nice, good amount to spend. Abrams with the Witchmail. It's going to help against some of the spirit damage that UNL are throwing out. You see some of the other pings coming in on the map. Silver with Diviner's Kevlar. Styler doing my job for me. Paradox with Echo Shard for the double bomb. And Doorman getting scarier and scarier as we get to the period where mid-boss can start to be forced after just one pick, plus a little bit of map advantage.
Yeah, and especially I'm thinking about these door setups right now. At this stage of the game, if you have Mystic Expansion and enough Spirit, I think you're at the point where you're able to do a spawn to mid-boss door, which is a crazy strong advantage for your team to have, not only just for the free heals, but also you're going to be able to knock your opponents extremely deep into your territory, just outside of the fight entirely.
Yeah, I mean, look at that range. He's certainly going to be able to do that. So when we get to the mid-boss pit, it's going to kind of be a question of the Doorman versus the Dynamo in terms of utility and locking down opponents. And since Johnny hasn't yet been able to get the Souls for Unstoppable, you got to favor the Doorman in that exchange. You see the Doorman coming in now with 2 members deep into the enemy team. University of Toronto now in big trouble.
Yep, the Workstone forward into the Italian Sun Misclick does not have enough spirit resistance to withstand it. And Fractal as well gets popped. That's your big ghost sign. That's your 2 picks. And it should signal UNL to go towards that boss.
Yeah, but they're finding more value if they can get this Dynamo. That's the last big threat off the board for University of Toronto to try and contest this mid-boss. Trying to get out, but Silver's still there on the chase. They might be able to get away to mid-walker, but I mean, it's a close thing here for Toronto.
Yep, the chase does go long, and you see sometimes just shredding their way through that walker. The telekinesis comes through as well, just as more of a deterrent towards Big Fat B, trying to make their escape now and dispel magic to help heal themselves up. And okay, UNL might have just missed their first mid-boss time.
Could be. You see them backing away from it. They got a walker off of it, but you still would have much preferred to have mid-boss to be able to push your tempo here into this late game as we start to reach the 30-minute mark. This is where a lot of your timings start to really be important on your M1s. Stromo, we pointed out the Spellslinger early. Something... almost looking for like a... Mercurial Magnum has got to be crazy here, but maybe not the idea. Toxic bullets available for them. And then sometime as well, getting some key item timings online. You see the Mercurial Magnum, the Leech, the Boundless Spirit already picked up. And Styler not getting a whole lot since the last time we checked in, just that rapid recharge. Needs Glass Cannon to come online for him.
Yeah, I can definitely see Stromo going a little bit more down that gun path, especially since you have Sometime, you have Cloud, and you have Woody Seth, right? Really heavy amounts of spirit damage coming out from the rest of your team. So it makes sense for them to diversify. When you look over at the side of University of Toronto, though, we're still not really seeing some of that itemization we were hoping for before. Wow, Doorman there with an almost kidnap. Telekinesis inside of the hotel. I mean, at that point, you've just got to accept your fate, and there's going to be a kidnap there off to somebody else entirely, it seems.
Yeah, but University of Toronto are showing up for this fight. It's just misclicked missing. Now Fractal as well, and with Styler going down, that is enormous for UNL as this Doorman pick has been really working out for them, and Johnny soon to fall as well. That will certainly be a mid-boss if they can get this pick. Kanigo-san just whiffs off the side and only connects onto the Yamato, but Johnny will go down anyway with help from Woody Seth. Now a bit more help from Doorman with that ult resetting because of the lack of escape from Styler means 4 dead, and UNL will take a mid-boss and likely snowball the rest of this game.
Yep, the start here, we really got off to what I thought was going to be a different version of this script, where we were seeing a really close matchup between these two. But as the game has developed, UNL have once again done it. They've managed to pull apart in a really significant manner. Now they're up 30k souls. They have 3 rejuves, and there is still a walker on that map that's definitely going to be priority number 1 for the team.
Yeah, and I mean, with this Wraith, again, just shredding so much, Sometime has had an impressive performance both games, showing what they can do on what's typically not seen as the best M1 hero at the moment, but certainly making it work here for Nebraska-Lincoln tonight. And, I mean, overall, Nebraska-Lincoln have just had the better picks and had the better macro gameplay to be able to get advantages in these fights so far. Toronto, maybe on a bit of an off night.
Yep, and you know, as this game continues to cascade further, I don't really see an angle to get yourselves out of this. First off is going to be stalling out this 3 minutes as far as possible. And the next order of business is, you know, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you're really relying on Johnny to make a hero play here.
Well, there it comes. The Singularity comes in and at least catches out Wraith. It'll be 1 rejuve expended, but you got to worry about the doorman there. Able to get them out. Nice hook in from Bebop, though. Means that... Oh, second hook in! They may actually get this pick off onto Sometime. There you go. 90 seconds down your carry for Nebraska-Lincoln, but they've still got 2 rejuve charges in hand. Doorman carding people in. That takes care of Dreamline, and Bebop looking worse for wear as well. Styler misclicked both low as well, and the curse comes in from the silver, and that's going to finish off those 2. And despite the early pickoff, the rest of Nebraska-Lincoln rotate in time and are able to carry this fight.
Yep, good show of force there to secure that kill onto the Wraith, but UNL, they show up and they show up big time. They're able to use up a lot of that power that they've built to swing the fight really hard back into their favor. They traded 1 for 4. They're going to get this walker down in mid, and now the base guardians and shrines are definitely going to be their next targets.
I mean, that's the power of those rejuves, though, right? It took so many more resources to be able to bring down Sometime. You had to use the Black Hole, you had to use 2 hooks from Big Fat B. Styler also threw in the Iradomini just to get enough damage. So many resources expended for Sometime that the rest of the team was just kind of able to walk in and do their stuff. So it was a good attempt from University of Toronto. It's just that UNL were ready for it. And now they're being rewarded with a couple of shrines for their troubles. And while there might be a hook in or 2, there's just not enough damage from U of T up to be able to take care of this Geist.
Yep, that's the sort of struggle you're facing. You invest so much to take down a raid boss, you don't really have too much left in the tank afterwards. And you see Johnny just sitting only at 22k souls. This Dynamo is a little bit starved from those, you know, big ticket 6,400 items that you typically see them buying just to continue to stay relevant and be that, you know, big playmaker that you need. Looking at the rest of UNL, they're hiding around that corner. Johnny becomes the first victim, and
classic.
With the patron down, there's not really too much left to say. UNL definitely have their sights on it now.
The Doorman locking away someone as well. I mean, Yamato going down to 1 HP, but the patron is also being burst down. There's no members of University of Toronto there to give it the invulnerability. Nebraska-Lincoln, I take this one in a fairly convincing 2-0, and they'll advance to face Northwood in the bracket up next.
Yep, I think over the course of that series, they've proven themselves to be pretty definitively the second best team, at least tonight, in the DCS playoffs. And yeah, they're going to be able to get their next big ticket game up against Northwood. But to reel things back a bit to look at a replay or the scoreboard for this game, I mean, I think that we can both agree that Apollo from Cloud really deserves the MVP here.
A lot of early game pressure, yeah, and a couple of crucial kills onto Styler and some of the other heroes who could have gotten ahead a little bit extra. Honestly, my MVP is going to go to this Doorman from Arctic. I think he got value in a lot of different fights. It's just not in a way that's going to show up on the scoreboard here. You see him with the assist top of the leaderboard, but that's about it. But those carts into the Walker, away from the urns, away from the team fights, as boring as it might be to see this for the 15th time in show and tell, it's still something that's going to get a lot of value in this environment. And University of Toronto never really got the souls to be able to counter itemize against that. You see only a couple of silence waves picked up for them, on the Yamato, and I think that might be the only one on board, and only one counterspell as well for Styler. So that's what happens when you fall behind early because of an Apollo-like Cloud, that you're just not able to do enough against the rest of the team's itemization.
Yeah, I definitely do agree that the Doorman is worth highlighting. Maybe it's a little bit of my personal bias that leads me away from saying that they're in the MVP per chance, but you know, looking back at this match, right, you have a lot of consistent themes throughout it. I think, you know, Sometime was a very consistent light throughout all of this darkness, just their ability to side push and to get a lot of these walkers down and secure the objectives for the team, and they were able to win those fights on top of that. It's pretty solid.
Yeah, a lot of performance from that Wraith, and really all of UNL were doing their jobs all the way throughout. We saw Shromo as well, just on the off carry, and both times. It's kind of weird to say that Venator was an off carry in that game one, but ended up being that way with how well Sometime was finding the farm and able to go late with that build. So, I mean, just a fantastic performance for them. Like I said, I think they had strong macro this game. They were constantly getting trades on the map, and I mean, that legendary Urn stall from Cloud on the Apollo, just to get the rest of the team back into the fight, I think was one of the defining moments of this game too for me, because that was a chance where Toronto were going to trade another objective and it'd come back to neutral. But then because of that one play, things are suddenly in UNL's favor. So it's little moments like that that can turn a game like this, a tempo game, such as Deadlock, into a snowball for one side.
Yep, I couldn't have explained that better myself if I tried. So thank you for that. You know, as we approach the end of this stream, we want to do another quick look here at the brackets. As we alluded to before, Northwood University are going to be facing off against Nebraska Esports. That is going to definitely be a match to look out for, and even if or when one of these teams ends up losing the semifinals, they're going to have a pretty solid route back to get into the Grands. Looking at the losers round 2, we now have University of Toronto playing off against Seattle. That is going to be, I think, a little bit more of a predetermined match. Seeing 2-0s across the board, though, in a best-of-3 format, that's not typically something that I would expect, at least not this deep into the tournament.
No, it's been a little unusual here in round 2, at least of the upper bracket. Northwood have been on a string of dominance. We haven't been able to show them on stream yet, but I mean, anytime you get to catch them, they look really solid in any of these matches. So seeing them on 2-0s, not terribly shocking, but then the rest of the bracket, yeah, there's just been some stomps going on is all. Hope to see that maybe be a little bit closer as we head into the final stages of this bracket. PSU versus the Texas Aggies is going to be a good one down there in that lower bracket to determine who goes up into the next round, and eventually we'll face off against the University of Toronto or Seattle going down there, and then the winner of that will move on to the loser of Northwood versus, I mean, you saw the bracket. I don't need to explain this. I don't know why I'm going through all this manually. We'll just be able to show you on stream throughout the next couple of days. How about that? But yeah, I think that's all that we've got for now, unless I'm missing something, Spafflez.
Yeah, so I mean, make sure to, you know, like and follow. Go follow at College Deadlock, wherever social media you like to follow. Make sure to, you know, join the Discord. Use this ! Discord, where we ping every time we go live. And we'd like to thank you all. Thank you to the producers, thank you to the players, and of course, thank you to the viewers. I know it was an amazing turnout here today. I was able to talk to some of you guys in the chats, and it's great seeing all the energy that you guys bring over to these streams. It's been a pleasure to be casting for you guys, and I hope there's many more to come. You know, I hope you all have a wonderful night, and we'll be seeing you guys again very shortly.